listen close. This is your brain on skills, listen close. And how we represent the real, listen close. This is your brain on skills, listen close. And how we represent the real. Yeah, definitely represent the kind, the vibe.
All right, so today I want to talk about a controversial subject that most people don't want to touch, but I'm going to touch because I think it is important. I think honesty is important, and I think there needs to be a reevaluation of our thinking of the sport of boxing. Me as a boxing fan, I just see boxing. That's all I see. I've been to small venues, no less than 30 people or 30 people, and just watched just a ballroom fight. And just enjoyed it. Just watched a boxer maybe with less power just try to box backwards against a puncher or a slugger who had more power. And the sport of boxing is about strategy, and I enjoy whatever that strategy is. I'm not a casual fan. I don't care whether it's more entertaining or it's not entertaining. I just value the strategy used from each corner in order to win the fight, right? But when you look at commercial boxing and you look at the commercial fan, and today we're going to talk about the Latino fan today, things change. And I'm talking about the Latino American fan, which is different than the ones that come from their countries of origin in Latin America or Mexico. I'm talking about based American Latinos. So to start with, I grew up with a dad that many would consider Latino, from New Mexico, okay, and he had, well, let's put it, my uncle, right? Because my dad wasn't that way, but he did have he was a little bit of a racist sometimes, especially with black people. He admired them, but at the same time, he felt in the narrative that, you know, they were bad people and that, you know, you had to watch out, right? Because that's what the media showed back in the day, especially for most baby boomers, let's just be honest here. But I had an uncle, and my uncle had different kids, right? And they didn't turn out to be like me, as white, right? As white as me. So he, instead of calling them by their native names, right, he decided to call them by all American names, like something you would see like in England or something you would see in like a royal house or in Denmark or something. Yeah, like Christopher, John Edward III, you know, just weird names that you would just see like in a movie of the 15th century. And the reason why he wanted to do that is because he always wanted to be with a white woman, and that's because of her native ancestry, you know, a lot of Navajo, and he just wanted to be like a white man. He wanted to have a white family because to some extent it looked like he was ashamed of his native pride. Now, it is interesting because when you look at the sport of boxing, looking at just my experience with my dad or my experience with my uncle and other people that I've met who are Latinos too, they have a really low value of themselves to some extent. And it's sad because they do. When you look at a fighter like Ryan Garcia, right? Ryan Garcia has not done anything in the sport of boxing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, this guy has not done anything. I mean, he fought Luke Campbell. Okay, that was a good fight. And, you know, he fought Gervonta Davis, and I give him credit for that because Gervonta Davis was a tough fighter. He should have used a better strategy. He should box backwards and just maintain his distance and do what he needed to do. But he didn't do anything in the sport of boxing. And when he fought Devin Haney and he beat Devin Haney, I thought Devin Haney was going to beat Ryan Garcia. I was shocked. I lost money in that fight. If you bet for Ryan Garcia, congratulations to you. You should, you know, you won a lot of money. But then he tested positive for ostarine. Okay, that is a banned substance, and you just don't find that in cornflakes. Okay, I never tested positive for ostarine, and I go to the gym regularly because I don't take supplements. Okay, he tested positive, and he failed 3 tests with BADA and then the Athletic State Commission. And when that was announced, instead of saying like, okay, Ryan Garcia cheated. He is a cheater by definition, and he should be suspended, and he shouldn't fight again for at least like a year and a half, 2 years. I think he should be banned because that is dangerous when you're, on steroids. That's just not a good thing. But the Latino community reacted very differently. They defended Ryan Garcia. And they started just literally cursing out Devin Haney. They basically told him that he was a crybaby, that he should have protected his chin. Okay. They made up so many they just attacked Devin Haney, but Devin Haney is the victim. He wasn't the guilty party. He wasn't the one who tested positive. He lost against a guy or a boxer who tested positive for steroids. But they cursed him out, made fun of it, made a lot of memes. And even to this day, a lot of the Latinos are protecting Ryan Garcia over Devin Haney. And I know why. It's just racism. That's the reason why. It's just racism. It's just sheer racism. That's what it is. There's no other explanation. You can dice it, slice it, you can say whatever you want, but it's just sheer racism. That's all it is. And it's envy too. Traditionally, Black American fighters have represented the flag, and they've done excellent in the sport of boxing. If there is a fighter that can showcase if there's a prototype of a fighter that can showcase what boxing is, it will be the American black fighter. That's the truth. But protecting Ryan Garcia cheat and then cursing out Devin Haney, it's just a sign. It's not ignorance, it's just racism. That's all it is. Now, I could talk about black people trying to be white, and I could talk about that too, but I'll talk about that maybe in a different program. But yeah, that was really shameful. That was very shameful to watch. That was very shameful to watch. And it wasn't just like the casual fans. It was some of the trainers, the Latino trainers, saying that, he should have protected his chin. Okay. Wow. That doesn't sound too good to me. So then we look at Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez is being protected for most of his career. Now, obviously, you got to be honest and say that Floyd Mayweather Jr. destroyed the sport of boxing because of the undefeated records. It was a terrible thing. The fact that, this whole notion of undefeated records came into the sport of boxing because it really hurt the sport of boxing, and we're hurting and we're having the sides effect of that right now. However, it's like Adam and Eve. You don't have to eat from the apple if the snake gives it to you. And Canelo Alvarez decided to eat from that apple, so he is a guilty party as well. But he docked Demetrius Andrade in like 3 divisions. He's docked David Benavidez. He wants $200 million for that fight, which is insane. He docked Damaro Jr. Never even mentioned him once, but he fights Edgar Berlanga or Jaime Munguia. He could have a second fight with Erislandy Lara. I think that would have been a great fight. And I think he could have fought other boxers in his division too. Jamal Charlo. He could have maybe fought Derevchenko too. But, that's more questionable. But either way, Canelo has shown that he is a big puss. And that's the truth. Yet, somewhere around the lines, it's okay to duck. Like, it's okay to avoid fighters. Well, isn't the whole dynamic of the sport to fight the best, or at least try to be undisputed in different weight classes? Isn't that like the dynamic that we should follow? Just clean your division. Just try to beat as many boxers as you possibly can to show legacy. Doesn't matter how many losses they're in your record. And many Latino fans protect Canelo Alvarez. They say that Demetrius Andrade is a bum, a runner. He's a hugger. I mean, I don't remember hearing that when Pernell Whitaker fought against Chavez. I just don't remember that language. He avoids... the dude is avoiding David Benavidez. And they still call David Benavidez a bum. Wow. So David Benavidez is a bum? Because he wants to fight with Canelo? He's not there for the interest of the sport. He's out there for his own interest. So he's not really representing the sport of boxing. He's representing his own interest. So he doesn't care what fights he gives you. What he cares is about making money. But there's the irony with that. And this is what's funny. First of all, Ryan Garcia and Canelo Alvarez have one thing in common. They're white-skinned. And for whatever reason, Ryan Garcia makes more money. And they say it's because he's an Instagram. No, if you look at his ex or whatever, there's nothing really special about him. But he makes a lot of money. And so does Canelo Alvarez. But the same Latinos that are protecting Canelo Alvarez and Ryan Garcia for their faults are discriminating against American fighters, black and brown. If you look at the pay-per-views of David Benavidez, when he fought Demetrius Andrade, a very avoided fighter, Canelo Alvarez was ducking him. Okay, he didn't want the fight. Gennady Golovkin didn't want the fight either, right? And Gennady Golovkin looks a little more white, by the way. The Mexican style boxer. Yeah, they sold you nice. But Demetrius Andrade goes with a pair, and he fights the most avoided boxer in 168 pounds. Demetrius Andrade avoided him. He was avoided himself in 160. Jaime Munguia didn't want him. Gennady Golovkin didn't want it. Canelo didn't want that fight. Even Charlo wanted that fight. And when they finally fought, the pay-per-view numbers were terrible. But then Canelo fights somebody like Aldi Gildrim and he makes 4 times more money than this fight, or Canelo avoided these 2 boxers? Well, wait, I thought David Benavidez was a Mexican American. Why does he get the support or the money? If you look at any of these fighters who are making the money, it's not the Jose Ramirez. Nope. He makes no money. And he gives you the best fights. It's not the Chon Cepeda, Jose Cepeda, who's trying to fight as many people as he possibly can. It's not the boxers like Jojo Diaz who'll take any challenge. It's not the Gabriel Rosados. It's not Diego Pacheco. And it seems to me like they all have one thing in common. They just look a little bit more indigenous. Just like my uncle thought that he had to change the name of his sons because, you know, they just looked a little bit more indigenous. So he tried to give them more of a Royal English name. So it is interesting because they don't like the black boxers. Okay, they don't. They discriminate against them. It's mostly MB. But then they don't even support their own boxers. Look at their pay-per-view numbers. For God's sake, there is, what, like 40 million Latinos in the United States? And even black Americans, I'll call them Afro-Americans, but black Americans, they're buying more pay-per-views from their own boxers. That the Latinos, having a larger percentage of the population, are buying from their own boxers. They don't even care. They don't even care. So it's really sad what's happening in the sport of boxing because there is a lot of racism. And unfortunately, this affects the sport. Listen, you got to take the best challenges in the end. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. If you look at the greatest boxers that ever stepped in the ring, they all lost. Look at Henry Armstrong, Archie Moore, even the white fighters like Freddie Steele, Harry Greve, Terry McGovern. Let's go black again. Joe Gantz, Tiger Flowers. Let's go white again. Mikey Walker. Max Bayer. Let's go black again. I mean, it's just insane how people are trying to belittle certain boxers because they don't have an undefeated record anymore. But in reality, the real excuse is because they're just racist. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, anybody that's in the sport of boxing and takes the challenges, the hardest ones, they're all going to lose. But the question is not that you lost. The question is how many of the tough fighters did you beat and how many did you lose to? So Jojo Diaz, in my eyes, has way more heart and way more balls than Canelo Alvarez will ever have. Why? Because he took the hardest challenges. Devin Haney takes hard challenges. Okay? It's not easy to fight against Vasyl Lomachenko then George Kambosos Jr. I mean, George Kambosos, Basilo Machenko, Regis Prograis, and then going against Ryan Garcia, Jojo Diaz. He fought Jojo Diaz too. That's not an easy task. Most fighters, they don't take that approach. But instead of giving him credit, you belittle him. You make him look like he's inferior to Ryan Garcia, even though Ryan Garcia was caught doping. So it is hypocrisy. Latino Americans, now they're being discriminated against, and I'm totally against that. I think that's terrible. I think that is a terrible thing. But let's be honest. You discriminate against black fighters. Like, you discriminate against your own fighters. And one of the reasons why Jaime Munguia, Navarrete, Cepeda will never reach a Canelo Alvarez status or Ryan Garcia status in the Latino community, it's because they're just not white enough. That's the truth. You can still feel the native in them. That's the truth. Otherwise, they will make a lot of money. So, the Latino community I'm very ashamed of how they look at the sport of boxing. It is really bad, and is really hurting the sport right now. Listen, you have the obligation to push for a fighter that is taking risk, win or lose, doesn't matter. That shouldn't mean anything. If you like boxing, of course. Now, if you're like, undefeated records and all that Mayweather crap, and Canelo, try to, select, who you're going to fight, then, that's different. You're not a real fan of competition. You just, choose and pick, like Gervonta Davis. And we can talk about Gervonta Davis, who, is one of those fighters who, picks who he wants to fight, But listen, at the end of the day, you cannot be supporting Canelo Alvarez and Ryan Garcia and then not buying pay-per-views from other Mexican-American boxers, right? So really just American boxers born in America, or black fighters, and then pretend like, oh, you're against me. No, you're against yourself. You're against yourself. You're against yourself. And I will never defend that. I'm a big fan of the sport of boxing. And I think that we should all be fans of the sport of boxing. And if you believe in your boxer, well, you have to beat him. If you believe in him, you got to beat him. And you should be pushing for it. Otherwise, he's just a puss. And that's just what it is. So, the hypocrisy in the Latino community is something that I did have to point out. And I'll talk more about it. But it is really shameful that we are seeing. I keep seeing this, especially in the comment sections, and defending, these boxers who duck other fighters. But who are they ducking? And are you supporting the fighters that they're ducking, who you claim of your pride? No, you're not. You're just a hypocrite. All right, give us a like, subscribe, and become part of the Golden Internet community here in Spanish and now in English as well. And, we're a big community, and we're strong, and we're pro-boxing, not pro-race, and, pro bullshit. All right, give us a like and subscribe. Deuces.
Night Wolf wins.